Hello everyone and welcome to another YouTube video of me, Tarot by Andy. I hope you are all having a wonderful week so far. Today's episode is one that will hold near and dear to me. So I will be discussing who Lucifer really is and how I work with him as a crystal pagan Buddhist. So, I want to start off by saying that there are different interpretations depending on different cultures and religions and spiritualities. Some say that he brought evil upon this world, um, and that, for example, a Bible verse depicts him as saying, "It is better to reign in hell than serve in heaven." So they depict him as a selfish, egocentric individual and an anti hero, a villain who wanted to go in hell because he wanted to be in control, he wanted to have a throne, and he wanted to overpower God. So that's one interpretation that usually evangelicals and Christians and Catholics and all sorts of those religions believe. Others say that he is the one who brings us knowledge, and the same as any other angel, and that he sacrificed his place in heaven to bring us knowledge on earth. Finally, others say that he doesn't exist at all and that the Bible made him up and that's that. So who is he really to me? Well, I want to start off by giving off a little bit of history, and I'm going to put my reference. I got it from a YouTube documentary on Lucifer's origin story, so I will put that in the description below so that you will have access to that as well. So Lucifer was actually originally part of the Roman pantheon, and he was associated with the planet Venus. His name means morning star or shining one, or light bringer or light bearer, depending on the translation that you may use. His name was absorbed into Christianity as a name for the devil. So he was brought into Christianity through mistranslated texts, through taking things literally instead of metaphorically. And in fact, he did not really exist in the Bible. His character in the Bible was based on the Roman figure. So let's talk about the biblical evidence to support this belief. The English version of the Bible uses Lucifer, the name, once, and it uses the name Lucifer with the uppercase L to make it seem like it was a name, so a person, a biblical character that actually exists. However, if you go back to the Latin version of the Bible, the word Lucifer shows up many times with a lowercase l to indicate that it's actually an adjective. So the Latin for Lucifer is lux fer, meaning light bearer. In the Greek version, we see the word phosphorus, which also means a light bearer or something bright. And again, it is lowercase and is an adjective. Finally, we're going back to the original. In the Hebrew Bible, we see the word Hillel ben Shahar. This means the shining one, son of Shahar. So this is translated roughly into Lucifer, the shining one, son of the morning. So if you go back to that time, Shahar was a god, a Roman god. And so Hillel ben Shahar means that Lucifer was the son of the god Shahar. So let's go to which Bible verse talked about Lucifer. Isaiah was the prophet that wrote about Lucifer in Isaiah chapter 14, verses 12 through 14. He knew of the old world mythologies, the Roman mythologies, and so he wanted to use them as a metaphor towards a Babylonian king whose name was Sennacherib, Sennacherib, I think it's pronounced. So he saw, as he was a prophet, that the enslavers were going to meet their downfall eventually, and the Babylonian king was going to be brought down. This king saw himself as Hillel ben Shahar. He saw himself as the son of a deity. He saw himself as greater than God, as something bright and of great importance. So Isaiah is believed to actually use the word Lucifer as a metaphor to say that although the king thinks he is something bright, a light bearer, a morning star, he will eventually be overshadowed by the rising sun, who is God. So I want to go into the Roman pantheon. So who is Lucifer in the Roman pantheon? You will not, if you try to Google it like I did for ages and ages, you're not going to find much because his story, his mythologies were all missing. They were erased. I believe personally that it is because the Christians who knew that Lucifer was not an actual Christian biblical character, put an effort to erase him. And they didn't only do that to Lucifer, they did that to all sorts of Greek and Roman gods and goddesses because they wanted Christianity to be the superior religion. So you won't find much, but based on this documentary and what little research there was online on him, in the old pre-Judaic world of the gods, there was a council that was headed by El. So El is a Roman god. Among the lower deities, there was the famous Baal or Baal, however you pronounce it. In the 1920s, north of Syria, there were several clay tablets found, and one of them was titled the Baal Cycle Text. This was eventually found to be dated in the 12th to 13th century before Christ, BC. And according to this, to one of the clay tablets, the gods congregated on Mount Zaphon, which means Mount of the North. So get it, north of Syria, Mount of the North. Everything is connecting. Within the text, we find the gods Hallel and Shahar. Hallel and in these texts was actually referred to as Athar. So in the story, according to the tablets, Baal had stepped down from the throne, and so the gods tried desperately to find a replacement. It was Athar who stepped up. Eventually, they realized that he was not fit to rule, so he stepped down and continued to rule down on earth. Does that sound familiar to anyone? The truth is down below. So what was referenced as hell is not literally down below earth. It means below the heavens, meaning on earth. Athar was associated with the planet Venus, and it is Athar who Lucifer is based on. An interesting fact that I found is that Athar is the male counterpart of, does anyone want to take a guess? A gander? The male counterpart of the female deity Ishtar, who was later known as Aphrodite and Venus. And I'm going to kind of notice that because of this little fact, I decided to also work with Lucifer in my glamour magic, in my beauty rituals and all that, because of this fact that I discovered. So that's what I have about the history. Obviously, it's so much longer. The documentary is like almost 2 hours long. So I'm not going to obviously go over every little thing. I wanted to talk mainly about the basics history of who Lucifer was, really, who he was based on, and how the Christians came up with him in the Bible. So now I want to go into more detail about my own personal opinions. So again, these are not facts in history. These are my opinions, my beliefs, and how I will choose to work with Lucifer in my practice. So the question lies of, okay, if we know who Lucifer is, if he really was part of the Roman pantheon, what about Satan? Are he and Lucifer the same person? My personal belief is that obviously no, they're not the same person. Again, Satan is purely biblical. There was like, as far as I know, if I'm, correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, comment below. But as far as I know, Satan is purely biblical, and was not really found in the Roman pantheon or any of those. But Lucifer goes back to the Roman pantheon, to a religion that is older than Christianity itself. So to me, in my opinion, the devil is not a real being, and neither is Satan. So to me, I use the devil and Satan interchangeably. They are the same person, in my opinion. However, they're not really people or deities or beings, but they are metaphors for the evil in this world that is caused by people who misuse their free will. So I do not I don't if you follow me from my Instagram page, I did a brief post about why I identify as a Buddhist, and I talked about combining my Buddhist and Christo-pagan beliefs. In that belief, I said that hell is not a literal place, rather it is the process of being reincarnated over and over again, enduring the pains of the earth. Of course, there are joys as well, but the ideal for me would be to go to heaven, which is going to happen when I reach enlightenment. And in heaven, there is only pleasure. There is no pain. There is no suffering. You're not experiencing what's referred to as dukkha in the Buddhist tradition. And so that is the ideal. So to me, hell is not a literal place. It is the process of being reincarnated. Like, you ever hear the saying, this is hell, life on earth is hell. That's kind of what gave me this idea and this belief, and that is just something that stuck with me. So because of that, if I don't believe in hell, I don't really believe in I don't really believe in Satan or the devil. So you may be wondering, okay, wait. Hold on one second, Andy. Hold on. I got to process this. I thought you said you only work with the Abrahamic pantheon. So now you're telling me you believe that Lucifer is not really a biblical character. He is a Roman pantheon. But why do you still claim to only work with the Abrahamic pantheon? Why and how do you work with Lucifer? How does that make sense? Make it make sense, Andy. Tell me. And I will tell you. Lucifer was forced into Christianity. Okay, he was forced into a religion he wanted nothing to be he wanted nothing to do with. He wanted nothing to be a part of. Athar was just trying to rule on earth. He was just trying to live his best life as a ruler of his own thing. He didn't want to rule the heavens. He didn't want anything to do with that. He just wanted to make the world, honestly, a better place. He wanted to step up when nobody else wanted to. Okay. So because of the fact that I empathize with the fact that he was forced into Christianity, and years of Christians believing in him and believing he was evil and believing he was part of the Bible, I believe that he eventually manifested himself into actually becoming part of the Abrahamic pantheon. So if you ever heard of the term egregore, or egregore, I don't know how to pronounce that fully, but this is when a non-physical entity arises and comes to being, comes to fruition, exists from the collective thoughts of a distinctive group of people. So it's sort of like that, where a group of people said Lucifer exists in Christianity. Lucifer exists in Christianity. He is the devil. He is evil, blah, 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 blah. And eventually he did manifest into being a part of the Abrahamic pantheon because of that. That is my belief. Again, it is up to you if you believe otherwise. It is up to you if you do not believe the same thing. I am not here to say my way is the one right way. No, I'm not here for that. I'm not. That's not what I'm about. That's not what this YouTube video is about. It's not what this channel is about. I am emphasizing, again, my belief, and I am entitled to this belief. So that fact is kind of a loophole for me for working with Lucifer. So I still maintain my belief that the only deities I work with come from the Abrahamic pantheon. And I emphasize the word deities because I do work with mystical creatures. I work with the Fae. They're not necessarily biblical, but I do believe still, that they exist and that I can work with them. But specifically deities and saints, like basically anything like that, I work with the Abrahamic pantheon. So another question that you may be wondering is, okay, if Lucifer really was from the Roman pantheon, do I refer to him as Lucifer, as Athar, or as Hillel? Because we all know that those three names are what he was referred to as. It took me a while to figure out what I was comfortable with, honestly. And even as I'm making this video, my perspective is changing. I have on my little, not a script, I have point form of what I want to, all the points I want to address in this video in front of me. And on the point form, I say, I call him Lucifer because that is the name that appears in the Bible, and it's sort of a nickname that he likes to be referred to as. But as I'm saying this video, I am contemplating, I'm thinking, and I'm like, I do not want to erase part of his history. Like I said, I empathize with the fact that he was forced into Christianity, and he did not originally want to be a part of Christianity. He wanted to rock it with the Roman gods. He wanted to be chill with his own thing. He was forced into something he did not want to. Unwillingly forced into a religion. And if you are deconstructing from the church, from evangelicalism, you could probably empathize what that's like, to be forced into an institution that you don't really want anything to do with. So, as I say this video, as I go over this long interpretation, I have decided I will use them interchangeably. Mainly because they're basically all the same name, just in different languages. So Lucifer is Athar in kind of like the Latin language. Like we said, Lux Fair means light bringer. Same as Athar, which means light bringer. Same as Hallel. All of those mean light bringer. So they're basically in different languages. So I make the decision as I record this that I'm going to use them interchangeably, whatever I feel like it, kind of like whatever aspect I want to reach him. Do I want to talk with the aspect that connects to God? Because, like I said, he's forced into Christianity. So by that, he was kind of forced into connecting with God. Do I want to talk to that aspect? Or do I want to talk to the aspect, that kind of deconstructed aspect that's away from Christianity, away from evangelicalism? And in that case, I will use Athar or Hallel. So that's my belief, my practice. That's what I will do. If this story inspires you to do the same thing, all the power to you. I encourage that. And if not, if you like Lucifer and you make it easier, say, that's what I've known about him, that's what I've known and referred to him as my entire life, I'm going to stay with that. All the power to you. Again, I don't think Lucifer holds grudges for calling him Lucifer. I don't think... at the end of the day, as long as you're treating him with love and respect, as a being, we got to remember they may not be human, but they are beings who do have feelings and emotions. Like if you read through the Old Testament, God was a vengeful God. Do I think he's still a vengeful God? Do I still think he's full of anger and resentment? No, I don't. I think in the New Testament, you could see that kinder aspect and how he learned his lesson and how he can admit to make mistakes, because gods make mistakes. Lucifer made mistakes. Athar took over the throne when he was not ready to. That could be seen as a mistake. It could also be seen as noble, because hey, no one else was doing it, but we'll step up. But at the end of the day, it wasn't for the best. And so gods can make mistakes. Deities can make mistakes. Acknowledge that. Respect them regardless of it. Just like you would want to be respected regardless of your mistakes, because we've all made them. We've all made mistakes. I think the only way to create a flawed human is to be a flawed God. If you were a perfect God, you would not know how to make something with flaws, because if you're flawless, like that's the only thing you know. You're not going to know how to make anything with flaws and makes mistakes. So that's my opinion. So again, Lucifer's not going to smite you for calling him Lucifer. At the end of the day, treat him with love and respect. Call upon his name in only the kindest of ways, with empathy. And yeah. So how do I work with Lucifer in my practice? The number one thing I do is shadow work. Lucifer represents... okay, I went through very dark times. I This isn't going to be a personal video. I'm not here to vent about my past. This is my witchy content, so I'm going to avoid the dark and gloomy stuff. But like many, many people, I did not have the easiest childhood. I did not have the easiest adolescence, and I am not having the easiest adulthood. And as someone who still lives with evangelical parents, who's still forced to go to church, working with someone who understands what that is like, what it's like to be forced into a religion you want nothing to do with, is important to me. Lucifer is that being for me. I do tarot readings for him to get his opinion. Hey, what would you do in this position? Hey, how did you deal with this? When the priest says, oh, you're an evil being that we should avoid, how does that make you feel? That's how I work with him in my practice. I do interviews sometimes. I speak to him kind of like a big brother. The energy I get from him is the energy that I feel when I'm talking to my younger siblings. He is the big brother I always wanted. He is protecting me. And so I do shadow work with him. I have an altar to give him offerings to say, hey, good morning. How did you rest? How are things up there? And then do a tarot reading. What do you need from me today? And then, of course, also healing religious trauma is part of that too, because that's part of the darkness that's in me. It's that religious trauma. It's a trauma response that's in me still. So Lucifer helped me with that through shadow work, and he understands, and he is the first deity I ever felt truly understood what it's like to be forced into something you want nothing to do with. So that's why I work with him. And then another thing, like I mentioned before, since he is the male counterpart of Ishtar, aka Aphrodite or Venus, I use him for glamour magic now. I just recently started. Whenever I'm going to church, I call upon him to bring his energy into the makeup I put on, to protect me, to give me positive vibes, so that, and also, a main thing is that I can continue to put on the front as quote unquote the perfect Christian, because I still live with my parents. I'm in no financial position to move out, and I need to stay here. And to do that, I need to put up a front. I need to hide myself. I need to do glamour to put up that front. So I call upon Lucifer with that. And he helps me, and it's been working wonderfully so far, and I will continue to do so until I feel like I'm no longer really benefiting. But I don't see that happening in the near future, if ever. Finally, as I alluded to earlier, protection magic. I call upon him for his energy. He is really wonderful, especially for protection wards. I feel like that dark and gloomy kind of stuff, not that protection magic is dark and gloomy, but a lot of people use rusty nails in their crafts. Some use teeth. So like those traditionally dark and gloomy stuff. Not to say like because that's literally the depiction of hell. It's like fire and broken teeth and injuries and dark and gloomy stuff and being hit by nails and but I'm saying, like, when I think about that kind of stuff, I think about someone who went through a period of darkness, who can bring the light from that darkness, and Lucifer is that for me. Of course, I use Jesus and the Holy Trinity and some saints for protection magic, depending on what it is. Like if it's protection from depressive episodes, I will call upon Saint Dymphna, who is the patron saint of mental illnesses and brain injury. But so I use everyone for protection magic, but I also use Lucifer. Whenever I feel like someone is going to do something baneful towards me, if I feel an evil eye vibe around me, that's when I use Lucifer, because I feel like I need that extra protection. Of course, as someone who is a Christo pagan, I put God first. God, and I make that very clear with Lucifer. I'm like, hey, I love you. You're a big brother to me. But at the end of the day, God is my number one man, and I'm going to keep him in mind in all my rituals. even the protection magic I do with you, I gotta be like, God, is this cool if I do this? I have to check in with God. The same way, like if you have a good relationship with your parents and you want their opinion on something, you're going to do that. I do that with God. I say, hey, God, is this cool? And if he says yes, go out. You can go out with your big brother, quote unquote. Then I will continue with the magic. I always have to ensure that I get the go to for God, because if I get a bad vibe in the middle of the spell, I stop it. I say, I'm sorry, Lucifer, I can't do this. I don't think it's what God wants for me at the moment. And he's respectful of that, honestly, because he understands that God has been there for me for a long, long time. And as my big brother, he's like, I'm looking out for you. And if you don't feel safe, I don't want to make you feel unsafe anymore. So we will stop. That is all I have for today's episode. Honestly, I'm so happy. I did not expect it to be 25 minutes long and counting. I am very, very thrilled. I hope to continue making videos that are about 20 minutes to maybe an hour if I ever have that much to say. If you have any other questions, you can comment them below. You can DM me on Instagram at Andy's Witchcraft. You could follow my TikTok. Sometimes I answer some questions in TikToks, which is at Tarot by Andy. And you can also email me at Yulier, YULIER 711 at gmail.com. So that is all I have for today. Thank you for tuning in and listening. I hope you have a blessed day. Blessed be. Have a wonderful day, week, month, and year.